Holy freaking smokes, guys. Okay, so usually y'all know my reviews are nice and edited. I cut pauses out, breaks in speech. Well, I'm gonna be real with you tonight, guys. We just straight up rambling for Oppenheimer because, full transparency, your boy gotta catch a flight in about 10 hours. And I gotta get a little bit of rest before San Diego Comic-Con. But I wanted to get on tonight to talk about Oppenheimer because, wow. I was floored with what I saw. Floored. This movie was great, and this movie is directed by the legend himself, Christopher Nolan, and centers on the life of Oppenheimer, who is played by Cillian Murphy. And you've also got Robert Downey Jr. in there as well, who plays the man who was pretty much after Oppenheimer. And then you've got Emily Blunt, who plays Oppenheimer's wife. You've got an ensemble cast of many other characters. Kenneth Branagh's in there. Guys, there's so many people to name off. Even Jack Quaid has a role as well. Josh Peck pops up in there. Rami Malek. Matt Damon. There's so many people in this cast. It is loaded. And let me tell you, everybody does a great job. But let me start with our man, the myth, the legend himself, Cillian Murphy. He is fantastic in this role. He is wonderful as Robert J. Oppenheimer. He completely transforms himself in order to embody the father of the atomic bomb, guys. He is phenomenal in this role. Just has these mannerisms and his facial expressions and everything. He completely transforms for this role. And I'm looking at Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer, and I'm like, man, anytime anybody's gonna mention Oppenheimer now, I'm gonna think of Cillian Murphy. He was that great in the role, just channeled this stressed but genius man who is taking on a huge project like it's one of his own kids. I really loved the way he portrayed this man. He was fantastic for the role. I think he was perfect top to bottom. The rest of the cast is great as well. Matt Damon and Rami Malek really have some great scenes too. Robert Downey Jr. playing essentially the villain of this movie was fantastic, guys. Fantastic. This is an incredible movie top to bottom. There is phenomenal cinematography. There is wonderful score from Ludwig, and I can't remember his last name, but he did Black Panther, and he just continues to make great scores. He was wonderful here. Another wonderful score from this man. He was incredible. I love the score. It went and really it just elevated the movie and made things a lot more urgent and make it feel a lot kind of like we're building up toward an explosion, and it just really works. And while there's an ensemble cast, there's also Florence Pugh in there. While there's an ensemble cast, unfortunately, all of them don't get the screen time they deserve, but Cillian and Robert Downey Jr. are fantastic. This is amazing. I love the way they play between the color and the black and white. I don't think they said this online, so I don't want to spoil as to like what it actually details and why one's black and white, why one's in color, but I love the back and forth between those, the interweaving these black and white and color scenes. Very much reminds me of Memento, so very early Nolan technique here, but I love that he interweaved that technique and really made a non-linear story where we got some parts of the story that were later in history, but we've got it in the beginning of the movie. Like, there's a lot of non-linear storytelling, so I think he does an incredible job of interweaving these scenes together. Performances are so good. The way these people elevate inside of a room together, literally two people talking in a room or a group of people talking in a room being this riveting and exciting. That's great on the acting, the direction, and the screenplay, which I thought was tight, crisp, up until about a certain point in the movie, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's keep on gushing about the good, guys, because there's a lot of it. Also, I just love the different production designs and the sets, and the hair and makeup and the costuming is phenomenal. Cillian Murphy looks damn near not recognizable as Oppenheimer, but I loved Emily Blunt's performance as well. Wish she got some more screen time. She was fantastic. Honestly, she was a great addition to the cast. Loved her in it. really had a great time with this one. This is masterful Nolan work. Like, this is some of Nolan's best in a while. Like, I was just kind of going back down his filmography, and I was thinking, okay, Tenet was the one before this. Liked it more than Tenet. Dunkirk, I know that's some people are not going to agree there. I liked it more than Dunkirk. This is like peak Nolan again. Like, think Inception, think that peak Nolan period, even Dark Knight, like peak Nolan. That's what this is, guys. Interstellar, that run that Nolan had, man, that is the energy here with this movie. It is so complete. There's so many great moving parts to it. And I want to iterate that this feels like two different movies in one. And for the most part, it's a good two movies in one. And then at one point, it gets a little rough. But let's talk about the good. For a lot of the movie, there's a lot of interweaving between these two events going on. The building of the atomic bomb, and then a silent trial going on with Oppenheimer. And I love that these two things are going on. And then we get to a certain point of the movie where we really focus very heavily, almost the entire film, on building the atomic bomb. And then we go off into the direction of focusing on the trial. And unfortunately, the trial part gets a little lost in translation sometimes. I really like the interweaving. I like when they really weave together, but when they separate, unfortunately, it drags a little. There's a little bit of dragging in that third act, a little bit too much to chew on, in my opinion. I think there are going to be a lot of Nolan fans and a lot of film fans who will actually find this chunk of the movie to be great. But just for me personally, there's about 30 to 40 minutes in here that can be cut out, in my opinion. I think this could have easily been a tight 2:15, and I think that that's one issue I'm having with movies now. I love movies, guys, and yes, go ahead, burn me at the stake. I love Endgame. I love it. I love Spider-Verse. I love long movies, but you get to a certain point with a certain runtime where it just starts to drag most of the time. 3 hours is just a lot for a movie to handle sometimes, and here was another example where it was just too much after a certain point. It just dragged, unfortunately. And then also, I think the two big women here, you've got Emily Blunt and you've got Florence Pugh, two powerhouse actresses, I think unfortunately get buried. They get a little lost in translation. And I know this is Oppenheimer's story, so it's Cillian Murphy's story, but they get lost a little. However, aside from those couple of negatives, I loved it. I can say I loved it aside from those two. So that's unfortunately what knocks me down a little, is that 40 minutes that just drags, in my opinion. And maybe on a rewatch, I'll come out a little differently because I had my trip going on and I got a lot going on today. But I will say that 40 just dragged a little bit for me, man. It just dragged a little, but Florence was good in her role. Wanted more from that character. There's so many interesting figures in this that I'm almost like, okay, I want to see a movie on that person. I want to see a movie on Robert Downey Jr.'s character. Maybe not Matt Damon's. I want to see a character on Florence Pugh, or a movie on Florence Pugh's character. There's just a lot of intriguing characters being depicted here, and the actors eat it up. Props to Nolan for just, it seems like he kind of just let the actors just do their thing and sink into the role. Like, each of them, even Robert Downey Jr. really sinks into his role. And you're not looking at Iron Man here. You're not looking at Tony Stark. You're looking at this character that he's portraying. And he's doing a great job, a real person. He's doing a great job of sinking into that role. So props to Robert Downey Jr. for breaking out of the Tony Stark here and really just giving this character its own character and personality, of course. Love that about Robert Downey Jr. and that here. I just really liked Oppenheimer. Cillian Murphy being the absolute best part of this movie. He kills it. Give this man Best Actor right now. Like, Academy, I know you're probably not watching this, but in the case you are, in the case you click this video tonight, I'm gonna let y'all know it's time to give Cillian Murphy his flowers for this. He was excellent in this film. He just completely embodies his character, and he just has so many mannerisms and traits of Oppenheimer. Like, I haven't seen any movies or TV shows depicting Oppenheimer, but he just transforms so much that you could tell he's putting a lot into this role. And I loved it, guys. I loved it. I liked the two movie thing going on here until it kind of drags a little, but for the most part, guys, I had a great time with Oppenheimer. It is explosive. It is very adrenaline heavy. Believe it or not, there's some adrenaline rushes in there, and there's about 2 moments in the film where it's like building up to an explosion. That's all I'm gonna say. If I had to give a rating to Oppenheimer, unfortunately, that last 40 minutes just kind of crushes it down for me. I was at a 9, but I gotta go 8.5 out of 10. I'm almost there. I was almost there, guys. Unfortunately, just a little bit of a drag there in that third act for me. Maybe it's because I'm in a rush today, but I don't know. The third act just did not end up being the best act of the film. However, the last 15-20 minutes was very, very strong. Guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if you're new on the channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll see you next time on Geekly Goods.